Nobody ever thought their way to success. Nobody ever hoped their way to success. Nobody ever wrote goals on a planner to success. They acted. Action is what attracts. It's the action. It's the movement. Every person has a change the world speech inside of them. It's inside of you. Every one of you have a message. Every one of you have a dream. And my hope is that today you'll begin to express that dream better than you ever have, because people need to hear your story. People need to see your vision. And when you learn to communicate, you pass it on to others, and you help so many people make a difference in the world. So let your dream come out and learn how to communicate it with excellence. Thank you very much. My name is John. I'm your friend. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Platform. My name is Samuel Ayim, and I'm excited to be with you this evening. As always, Saturdays are my best days because I get to meet all of you ready to grow and ready to learn. I want to encourage you to introduce yourself. If you are in, let us know where you are joining from. I know there's so many of you who join and you don't introduce yourself. That's fine, but it's our pleasure to announce you to the world. So do us the honors. If you're connecting from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're connecting from, please like our pages, subscribe, and share the link to your friends, to your colleagues. Tell them it's time to learn, it's time to grow. Please come over and join us to study. We're going to learn interesting things about leadership, about your development, about your growth, and about how you can make an impact in the world. I see William Dafoe is here. He says, good evening, Ghana. Good evening, dear all. Great opportunity to learn from Tema, the harbor city. Thank you so much. I see Douglas Amwatin is here from Tema. He says, good evening. So please go ahead, introduce yourself. Let us know you are here, and we will be very happy to announce you to the world. All right. The second thing I want to say is that it's Live to Lead time. We are only 2 weeks away, actually 13 days, October 6th. Please do not miss it. If you want to join in person, the room is already almost full. This year, we have a room of only 200 executives. So do not wait till the last minute. Kindly register now. Get your HR to register for you, because it is first registered, first seated. So if you come in late, we'll be Unfortunately, we'll not be able to admit you in person. So please register quickly and pay for it. But there's more room on the virtual space, so you can also join the virtual space from wherever you are in the UK, in US, everywhere. You can register and be part of Live to Lead. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be motivating and inspirational. So please do not leave yourself out. Now, we want to encourage you because when you register, you're going to have the event live, and after the event, you would have the event still in your portal for 5 good days. So if for any reason you miss any speaker or the language is too fast or you want to listen to it again, you have a whole of 5 days to listen to it. If on the 6th you are not able to connect, you will still have 5 days to register. So don't say on the 6th, I'm not available, so I'm not going to be able to join. You have the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. By the night of the 12th, before the curtain is drawn. So please join us. All right. So at this point, I just have the pleasure to introduce our speaker for tonight. Joining us all the way from the United States of America, our friend, our brother, Jeffrey Boham is a global learning and development, business, project management, and general human management and development professional with specialization in instructional design, project management, learning strategy, advisory, and general human resources. He is the president and principal consultant at Teampact Solution, a learning and performance consulting, training and development, human resources advisory, and certification preparation company based in Colombia. All right. Proud to joining Teampact, Jeffrey was a senior learning advisor at AARP in Washington, D.C., and proud to joining AARP, Jeffrey managed the instructional system design team at Aerotech, a global staffing and human capital solutions headquarters in the Hanover, still in the US. Now, he has led design and delivery for several successful and learning development workshops for high-profile clients, including the Baltimore Ravens client services team. So there's so much about our speaker this evening, and you can understand why we have invited him to speak to us this evening on the subject, leadership is a balancing act. Leadership is a balancing act. When you're a leader, you get to a point where you have to make decisions. You have so many people with different interests. How do you lead all of them at the same time to a common purpose? You need to make choices along the way. Difficult choices sometimes, and hard decisions you have to make. But as a leader, that is your call. How do you navigate the terrain of complexities in leadership? That is what our friend and our brother, who we have loaned to the United States of America, is here to share with us. Jeffrey, the leadership platform is here for you. Please do us the honors.
Thank you very much, lawyer. And thank you to Mr. George in the backside and Madam Sarah for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
We thank you, but before you speak, let me just ask this. Why are you in the US? What took you there? We are enjoying our fufu here. Tell us a bit about your journey and how you got to the US, briefly.
Well, that's a good question. So, obviously, like I think I heard quite a number of people from Tema. I'm a Tema boy myself, a disco boy, you know.
Okay.
I went through Addis Ababa, went to University of Ghana, and I used to be a staff member. I used to work in Parliament in Ghana. And when I was in Parliament, I had access to the parliamentary library. And I had a friend at the USIS where I would go to and borrow books and learn about US. And, you know, find ways. I was thinking about ways and means to potentially get to school. One of the things, what to potentially come to school in the United States. Now, one of the things that really got my attention then was that most of the MPs that I worked with were people who had schooled here in the United States. So there were times I'll write reports for them and I'll be like, why can't I be like these guys? Why can't I be like that? So I quite remember the former president, President Kufuor's brother, Dr. Adu Kufuor. I don't think he even knows me, but he was always in the library and in the parliament library. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm just going to follow this man wherever he goes. I'll go get books. And I used to get internet service and things. I applied to schools. I had a few friends. I got, I was lucky. I took the GRE. I got some scholarships, and I had to make that difficult choice of, either coming to school here or staying in Parliament and enjoying my life in Ghana. And I got some advice from some senior people, and I ended up coming to the United States. So that's what brought me here. And I've been here since for 20-something years. But I do come to Ghana quite often. So I'm not
All
completely
right. That is very interesting, and I hope that we're going to have a lot of learnings. You've been there, you've compared the way we do things here, the way we lead here. So we're going to have a lot of that experience into this discussion, isn't it?
I hope so.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
So I leave you the platform now, and you're going to talk to us. And guys, don't go away. As I always tell you, he's going to present to us between 30 and 40 minutes maximum. And then you would have opportunity to share. You would have opportunity to ask him questions. That is where we learn most. That is where the insights also come up. So please don't go away. You have opportunity to share your own experience on the subject. So over to you.
Thank you
Jolati.
very much, lawyer. I think, let's see, I have to present my slides. Okay, I do have my slides already. I think my slides are already on. Yes. So I can just go ahead and present my slides. So the topic for my short presentation, it's probably going to take less than 30 minutes. We talk about leadership as a balancing act. And let me share, before I even start, let me share a funny story. These same set of slides I used, some people may have seen it. I used these slides for a previous topic about 2 years ago. And the topic was strategic collaborative leadership. So when I was reached out to by Lawyer Samuel and the rest and said, can you speak on any leadership topic? What really comes to your mind when you think about leadership? I said, well, for me, from what I believe leadership to be, from being able to kind of sit back and observe leaders, very good leaders, and from being able to be a leader myself and be a follower myself, what I've learned about leadership is that it is a balancing act. And that is what I wanted to share. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and see if I can put some slides together. And I found those slides. And I was like, what if I just change the header? So all I did was change the header. And the same slides would, I believe, pass for what I want to talk about. So what it means is that my belief on leadership, based on what I've garnered over the years, is really the same. It hasn't really changed much. So when it comes to key points, I'm going to talk about leadership because most of the time when we talk about leadership, I think what comes to people's minds is who the leader is. But there's a difference between a leader and leadership. So that is one thing that I think is very important for everyone to really understand what leadership is about. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about would be effective leadership in a practical sense. Because you have all these people talking about leadership and people sharing quotes. It's great to learn from quotes. It's great to listen to podcasts and things. But at the end of the day, leadership should be practical. Leadership should be something that gets practicalized on a daily basis through action. So we'll talk about what effective leadership is in a practical sense. Now we'll talk about characteristics of good leaders. Who should qualify, who qualifies as a good leader? And what makes people good followers. We'll talk about that as well. And then we'll talk about how to make leadership effective. And then after that, I think I'm going to make it a back and forth conversation where we can actually, I don't want it to, personally, I don't want it to be just me talking. I believe in just that back and forth communication. So through the portal, please ask your questions, please share your comments, and let's enjoy the back and forth conversation. Let's see. So before I even get into this, before I even start my presentation, I want you to take a look at this quote by a lady called Faye Wattleton. And Faye happens to be she happens to be one of the previous leaders of Planned Parenthood. For me, it's not even much about her position or anything. What I think we want to pay attention to is the words in the quote. It says the only safe ship in a storm is leadership. Think about it. The only safe ship when there's a storm is leadership. Before I continue, I'd like to invite folks to tell me what comes to mind when you read this quote on the screen. The only safe ship in a storm is leadership. So I'm just going to wait for about a minute or two just to see if we can get some comments. If we can get folks to tell us what they think in terms of leadership being a balancing act, what comes to mind when you hear or you read the quotation, the only safe ship in the storm. Let's say there are 100 ships going. The only one that is fully safe from the storm is leadership. What comes to mind? And please, lawyer, if you can tell me what folks are posting, that would be great. Just about a minute or two.
Okay. So far, I'm not seeing any comment yet. I'm not seeing any comment, but once I pick any comment, I will share with you.
Yeah, I mean, if we get just one or two, the first few, I just want to
Yes.
know what this
Yes.
brings to people's minds when they see the quote.
Only safe.
The only safe ship in a storm is leadership.
Yes. Okay. So those connected, at least those who have introduced themselves, Douglas, William, Dennis, Tete Jr. What do you say? What do you understand by the only safe ship in a storm is leadership? Talk to
There are no
us.
right or wrong answers. There are no right or wrong answers. What I'm hoping
Absolutely.
is to just get what comes to people's minds. Okay, the audience, what comes to their minds when they see this quote.
Exactly.
The only safe ship in a storm is leadership.
Yes. Dennis, what do you think? Anthony, what do you think about that? William, what are you saying? Douglas, those are the people who have introduced themselves for now, but I know there are plenty of them who are hiding at the back. All right. So, but for me, Jeffrey, when you brought that quote, what I was thinking was, okay, so when there is a storm and there's a ship, but inside that ship, there must be a leader who is the one who is navigating the ship. So it is that person who comes to mind. If we don't have the proper person who is navigating the ship through the storm, then it's not going to be a successful journey. That's what I got. And I see Tete says, your ability, William first said, what he wants, okay, let me take from William. He says, in the dying moment of any situation, the leader is the one everybody looks up to for possible solution. So that's William's thought there. Then Tete says, your ability to to act and take decisions during such storms or solutions depend on your in-depth knowledge and understanding of your leadership skills. So that is from Anthony. And Douglas says, it means that you need a leader to overcome the storm. All right, so those are the thoughts that are shared here.
Thank you very much, lawyer. And thank you to everyone who contributed. Towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to bring this same quote again and see if people have had a change of mind or a change of thoughts or a change of viewpoint when it comes to the subject of leadership. I'm not going to respond because what this also tells us is that there are so many views, so many perspectives, and they're all right. Nobody's wrong. Everybody is right. Everything that was stated, that you need a strong leader during a storm, you need everything. People said that your ability to understand, I think one of them said your ability to understand everything and weather the storm. Whether it's a storm, there has to be leadership. You have to be decisive. You have a whole lot of a plethora. And I've been through all these leadership trainings, and people have different perspectives and different viewpoints of what leadership is about. But as we get through the training, you will see why I have distilled certain things as the core and key factors that define leadership as necessarily distinct from a leader. Because most of the time, what happens is people think leadership is all about the leader. And as you can see some of the responses, that was what happened. So let's continue. Leadership, again, as a balancing act, based on, this is me just sharing. I've been to hundreds of leadership seminars. I've read quite a number of leadership books from business school to all these places. Some of the key things, the key themes that you find throughout leadership is that leadership is strategic. Okay? Leadership is strategic and collaborative. There should be an element of intentionality with leadership. So the things, when it comes to leadership being strategic, some of the things that come to mind, leadership should be values-based. Like, for example, what I shared today, I said, this is a set of slides that I just had to change the header. And once I changed the header, it passed for whatever I wanted to talk about leadership. So if your values support a certain thinking process about leadership, then that's the kind of leadership you will espouse. So leadership is values-based. Leadership is planned. There has to be, again, intentionality. It's intentional. And as Lawyer Samuel said, it has to be purposeful, and leadership has to be visionary. As we keep going, all this is going to fall in place. Leadership is collaborative. What do we mean by that? This is where I think people tend to err a little bit, which is most of the time when we talk about the Kwame Nkrumah era, when we talk about the era of some leader, people equate that entire era to that unique personality who was the leader. However, true leadership is collaborative, it's collective. Okay, you can have complete consensus on one side of the scale, and you can have complete individualism on the other side of the scale. There has to be a commingling, and that middle point is where you find leadership. Leadership is inclusive. Leadership is embracing. Leadership is a shared responsibility, and leadership is coordinated. What do I mean when I talk about leadership being a shared responsibility? Because I know some people may be asking themselves, what do you talk about? Think about it. We have leaderships in countries. When we talk about a government, okay, whether the government succeeds or not, the president alone cannot make it happen. The president has to work with the cabinet, and the president has to impart his thought process, his thinking, his value system, okay, his understanding of the environment with the people. The people have to buy into it, and that together is what builds a nation. So leadership is a collaborative act that involves balancing. Again, as we keep going, things will become much clearer. Leadership requires direction. And one of the guys who shared their thoughts initially, they said, I mean, you require a strong leader. You need people who can make decisive decisions. Leadership requires direction. It requires supervision. It requires influence. It requires partnership. Leadership requires followership. That's a whole new thing we're going to talk about. And leadership requires an element of authority and control. So we are gradually getting into the concept and the subject of leadership. Let's keep going. So leadership, based on, again, this is me sharing what I know, based on what I have really understood over 20-something years, leadership is a multi-part equation. Okay. We've talked about John Maxwell quite a bit. When we talk about like other leadership gurus like Ken Blanchard and the rest, they talk about situational leadership. Some person's type of leadership will work in one situation, and the person's leadership abilities may not work in a different situation. Okay. So there are different attributes and different variables that fall into what defines leadership. However, the two big things that I like to leave you with, the two core pillars of leadership, is the leader plus the ship. What is the ship? The leader is the person who actually steers and manages affairs. The ship is the followership, the people who do the work on a daily basis. So a leader who does not have followership, okay, can lead from the office every day, but that leadership will not hit the ground, and so that leader will not be effective. So think about it. You have people who are great parents, okay, but there are some people who will pass well, green check mark as a parent, but they may not qualify or pass the subject of parenthood. Parenthood requires the input, love, support, care, attention of your children. So when you talk about leadership, it's the leader plus the ship plus the circumstances. But the two core things you always want to think about is the leader and the ship. That is what makes leadership. So we're talking about leadership in a practical sense. Effective leadership is managing the leadership equation successfully to meet the intended purpose. It is a balancing act. And before we got into the session, I know Lawyer and I were talking about it. Now think about it. When the waters are calm, okay, the leader can step back and let the ship run by itself. There are times where you have to make a decision to lead from the front. There are times where you make a decision to step back and give people courage, followership, prepare them to take over, to lead. So you can lead from the front, the sides, or the back, depending on the circumstances, depending on the challenges you're facing, depending on the storms you're facing and things like that. So leadership is not just you thinking, I have a PhD, I have this, I have that, so what I say happens all the time. No, that's not leadership. You are a leader, but you don't have leadership. And leadership is where you say, guys, this is where we're going. What do you think about it? Get everybody on the ship. Whoever wants to contribute. These are people who offer something in project management we call expert judgment. They do the work every day. They sit behind the computers. They know what is going on. So when they tell you, sir, this is what we do at 9 o'clock, then you, the leader, would have to reframe and re-swizzle your decision making to really incorporate. And that's how you generate influence. So leadership, again, is different from just being a leader. Leadership requires a commingling in a strategic way of the leader and the ship. Let's keep going. Things will get clearer as we keep going. So, what are some things that make good leaders? I'm just going to talk through some of these quickly. Number one, we talk about self-awareness. You have to be aware of yourself. You may be good in A, B, C, but not E, F, G. So that alone should remind you as a leader that you cannot do it all. And I'm speaking specifically to the leaders in the group now. I mean, whenever I do quite a number of presentations, and I'm a Ghanaian too, I do quite a number of presentations with my HR folk in Ghana. And what they tell you is that, we can never talk back to the leader. They're going to fire us. They're going to take us out of the company. The bosses, they are the ones who know it all. No, the boss doesn't know it all. So I'm speaking specifically to the leaders. You need to be self-aware. You also have deficiencies in certain areas. Leadership requires vision. You have to be a visionary. You have to have integrity. Leadership requires for you to be supportive of the people that you lead. That is how you gain their buy-in and influence. I saw a quote, this was a religious institution in Ghana. They said, the hands that serve are holier than the lips that pray. Think about it. The hands that serve. So there's servant leadership. Leaders should serve the people. When you serve the people serve you back. That is how leadership gets formed. Leadership is inspirational. Leadership requires communication. Leadership should be competent. You don't tell people to do something that you cannot do. What if they fall sick and don't come to work? Okay, so as leaders, for those of us who want to be part of that leadership equation, it's very important that we get to understand all these attributes, all these characteristics. Okay, we need courage. There are certain points where you have competing ideas and you have to make a decisive decision, explain the why behind why you made that decision, get your people to buy into it, and that's how you actually keep supporting your people. Leadership has to be tactful. Leadership has to be collaborative. So take a look at that little icon in there. Leadership is like riding a bike and holding some kind of, or maybe juggling some balls. Leadership is a balancing act. You can be hot today, you have to be cold tomorrow. You can be nice today. There was a presentation that I watched. This was a Toastmaster presentation. And the guy said something. He said, when his son was growing, okay, he used to basically scream on the child, stop this, do that, do that. And the child obeyed. But one day the child was happily writing on the wall. One thing he forgot was that the child was becoming an adult now. Okay, he went and started screaming. When the child was writing on the wall, he started screaming, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the child just kept looking at the dad and still writing, just writing. And then he was like, something just hit him in the moment and said, no, that's not a child anymore. So he went on his knees and said, son, I'm sorry. I used to treat you this way. As your father, I have changed. I respect you now. You are an adult. Please know that it's not a good thing to write on the wall. And as soon as he said that, the child stopped. So what does it mean? That's a leader right there. You have to spot, okay, your blind spots. You have to look at times when you have to step back. You have to look at times when you have to step back and collaborate. You have to look at times when you have to step back and let other people lead. So these are things that if you have a pen and paper, and it's more than that, take some time, write them down, digest them. You can read 1,000 leadership books. You will find these keywords in there. So those are the characteristics of a leader. Let's get to the characteristics of followers. Remember, I said followership is an equal part of leadership. That is one thing that, unfortunately, if you look, you see, when you come to, and when I know senior, as a senior, I'm a Santa Clausian. That's how we do this all the time. When I was speaking to lawyer Sam earlier, before we got on air, I told him I went to Addis Ababa and all these things. But, you know, we talked a bit about this whole leadership thing. And he asked me a question. He said, being that you're a Ghanaian and you used to live in Ghana and you've come to the United States and you know, you've lived in this country for a while, what do you see to be the main difference between the two countries? Well, culturally, there's definitely a difference, okay? However, one thing that I find uniquely different is that Americans hold their leaders accountable. So followership is a critical part of leadership here. Whether you're a president, VP, whatever it is, you have institutions that hold you in check. So the point is, unless we start respecting and valuing followership, we are going to realize that our leaders, and they're human, they can make mistakes from time to time. But guess what? They may not have anyone to correct them when they slip. So it's important that we build ourselves as followers too. When we build ourselves as followers, then we prepare ourselves to become effective leaders and understand the power of followership. What are some things that make us good followers? We have to be enthusiastic, okay? We have to believe in the cause. but it starts with the leader sharing his vision, his or her vision with us. We have to believe in the cause. We have to have integrity ourselves. We have to be ready to serve the people as much as we're ready to serve the leader. We have to be supportive. We have to be self-aware. Self-awareness is on both of them, leadership and followership. We have to be ready to be collaborative. We have to communicate. You can see a lot of these words, okay, on the followership side. Let me go back one slide. I want you to pay attention to this. Characteristics of good leaders. We're seeing self-awareness, supportive, integrity, servant, collaborative, decisive, okay, courage, competent. You look on the followership side, you're seeing competent again. A follower should be a good leader, because at any point when there's a storm, when the leader's asleep, you could be called upon to be a leader. So being a follower doesn't mean that you are smaller than the leader. Being a follower means that you are ready to lead, and you are ready to give your advice and readiness and support and expert judgment to the leader when called upon. You have to have the courage. You have to be able to communicate clearly, because at any point you can become a leader yourself. Okay, so that's another thing we need to know. So remember, leadership is a balancing act. You are balancing the act of being a leader and the act of working with your followers. Okay, so let's continue. How to make leadership effective. And when, again, I keep talking about Lawyer Sam, when he was opening this, he said it's important for us to pick and choose, make some right decisions at certain key points to make the leadership equation work. What I know for sure, some people might say, okay, so if I want to be a good leader or if I want to be a good follower, what can I do? And again, I'm speaking to the executives, the leaders on this platform, the leaders watching this. Okay, it's important to have a shared vision and purpose. What do I mean here? Your vision should not, as a leader, your vision should not just be in your head. And even if you're a follower, you need to, from time to time, share with the leader. Have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about this that way? That is how we share the vision and purpose, so we can all be on the same page. The second part of this, where we talk about re-recruiting members if needed, I put that there for a reason. And let me explain why. There are times where the leader may have a change of mind, a change of course. Okay. And it's important that the leader goes back to the people and say, this is what I'm seeing. This is how the world economy is going. This is how the company is going. This is how the market is showing. I think we have to change it. You have to re-buy the people's support. You have to re-get them to understand and change course. And particularly for people who get promoted from the rank and file to become leaders, okay? You are a mechanic and you become chief mechanic. What does that mean? The people that you used to work with, they saw you as a peer. So you think you are now managing your new team, but remember, it's not a new company. You are managing your former peers. So this is where you re-recruit them. Henry, Frank, Lydia, now I'm the boss. Now I want us to do something different. What do you think about it? Tell me, how do you do this? Focus groups, talk to people. That is what great leadership is about. A leader must be visionary. Okay, a leader must be self-aware. We talked about it earlier. A leader must know how to manage the leadership equation while modeling the way. What do I mean here? Being a leader is one thing. Talking about it is one thing. But if you tell people that during my administration, when I become president of this country, okay, I will make sure everybody shows up to work at 7 instead of formally when it was 8:30. When you become the leader, you want to show up at 6:30 every day. Because remember, the people keep asking themselves the question every day, why should I be led by him? Why should I be led by her? So remember, those are questions that they will be asking themselves every day. So you as a leader need to ask yourself that question every day. Why should anybody be led by me? What do I do differently? What makes me deserving as a leader to lead this group of people? You should be asking yourself. So by modeling the way, you attract feedback from the people, and they will let you know whether you are actually meeting their expectations or not. A leader must be competent. You must be enthusiastic. These were words that we saw on both leadership and followership. a leader, let's say, competent, enthusiastic, and driven group. There must be a competent, enthusiastic, and driven group of people willing to execute and step up to lead when necessary. So this bullet is really talking more about followership. So the people must be excited. We all learned about Kwame Nkrumah when we were in school. Okay, one thing that made him unique was he ate with the people, he hung out with the people, he spoke to the people, he spoke about the people. So anytime he spoke, the people were chanting Nkrumah here, Nkrumah there. Why? Because he bought into them and they bought into him. So for you to be an effective leader, there must be that followership. That ship must be ready to support you. There must be communication, transparency, courage, and that you want to build a feedback-rich environment. You want to build an environment where your sons and daughters and the people that you supervise can come to you and say, but Jeffrey, you are the leader. Why are you doing things this way? If you don't create that psychologically safe environment, and that is one of the big differences I see between the US and our part of the world. In our part of the world, when the boss speaks, nobody else can speak. But in the Western countries, I'm sure most of you on the Western countries can also, attest to this. People will tell their boss, Mike, Jim, I know you're the leader, but you are wrong on this one. I think we need to change it. I think we need to do it differently. So you want to encourage that. As a leader, you want to encourage that. Okay. So there should be that environment. In my previous organization, we had a system of giving and receiving feedback. We called it carefrontation. We confront you because we care about what is going on, because we all set out on the same mission. So if you are getting derailed as a leader, there's nothing wrong with a follower calling you out, because the follower is a leader in his or her own desk, at his or her own desk, in his or her own workspace. So you want to pay attention to some of these things, and you want to recognize and reward success and use the lessons learned from failures to drive future success. What I mean here is, when somebody's doing the right thing, take some time out. Let's go to happy hour. Thank Frank. Thank John. You've done a great job, John. I couldn't do it as a leader. Sometimes being able to show vulnerability as a leader is what makes people buy into you and what binds you together with your followership. And remember what I said, leadership is about balancing that equation that we talked about, the leader and the ship. If you don't balance it well, okay, and I'm going to ask a question. Tell me what you think. Do you think our leadership equations in our part of the world is well balanced? Can people challenge? I don't like to get into politics, but one thing that you see about Honorable Kenny Japan, I'm going to say this. One thing, and I'm not declaring, I don't follow politics. One thing that I see about him is that he shared something. He said he used to live in America. He has that spirit of saying, look, I'm part of you, but what you're doing is wrong. Okay, what does that tell you? That's the kind of things you need. You need a citizenry. You need a people that can say, wait, this is wrong. Let's fix this. Your kids need to be able to come and tell you, Daddy, too much drinking is good. It's not good. Mommy, too much doing this is not right. When you take the feedback and you act upon it, that is when you grow as a leader. So these are things we want to pay attention to. Leadership, if you look at all these things combined, you're going to develop vision, you're going to build a good strategy, you're going to execute together with the people that support you, and everything's going to lead to success. I posted that for a reason. Let's keep going. So practicing true leadership has to be done through certain things. Take a look at the letters TRUE. For true leadership to happen, there has to be mutual trust. It means the leaders must trust the followers, and the followers must trust the leaders. Okay, there should be mutual trust. There should be mutual respect, leadership and followers. And amongst the followers, amongst the leaders, there should be trust. There should be respect. There should be mutual understanding. And there should be a mutual willingness to execute together. If you are a leader, okay, if you are a leader and you don't seek the trust, the respect, the understanding, and the willingness to work of your people, you are just going to be an island. You will get nothing done. And all you do is attend conferences. But truth is, nothing will be done. However, if you're a leader and you build mutual trust, mutual respect, mutual understanding, and you're willing to work together with all your people, you're going to find out that that authority, that influence, that authority that you wield from the people, it will be because they respect you. It will be because they love you. It will be because they buy into your leadership. It will be because they support what you're doing. Look at the word that comes across everywhere is mutual, 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 mutual. What does that mean? It means that equation has to be balanced. It shouldn't be tilted. So in times of war, in times of a storm, people need to know what they need to do. You can't be standing at the top of the ship and barking orders. When the people are not listening, the ship is going to sink. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. So let's get back to our thing that we saw earlier. The only safe ship in a storm is leadership by Faye Wattleton. Now tell me, now that you've seen this short presentation, what are your thoughts now? Now let's give ourselves another 2 minutes. Tell us what you think now after hearing this. Honorable Sam and team, let's give them two minutes to just see what they post, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you so very much. And please go ahead and let's have your thoughts on what you have heard. What have you learned? What are you taking away from what you have heard from beginning to where we are now? What are your thoughts? What are you learning? All right. I have
When you
one.
reflect back on that picture that you saw earlier, what are you thinking now?
Okay. So from what we saw in the picture that was shown, that we saw from the beginning and which is also shown at the end, what are your thoughts? And the quotes that were with it. All right. So let's see what people are saying here. Okay. Somebody says, let me see some of the comments. Maybe that will be addressing your. Okay. So then he says it means leadership. It means leaders don't quit until the mission is accomplished. Douglas says, if I understand you well, sir, effective leadership is a teamwork and not single individual. And Douglas says, leadership is, Douglas, you have to come again. I'm not seeing sent. I'm not getting that one. And he said leadership is not centered on one person, but a team. However, the leader must have foresight to lead. All right. So those are some of the thoughts coming through there.
Thank you very much. You realize that our thinking in our part of the world, and I'm referring to developing countries basically, our thinking generally stems around thinking that everything has to be done by the leader. So we, the followers, we, the people who may not be in government, what do we do in our daily spaces to make sure the government is successful? Most of the time, when I watch people, even even people in news media, it's usually bashing leadership. What do the people do on a daily basis? The leaders were voted by the people. So it is the thinking of the people that reflects in the kinds of leadership they select. If the people took money to get certain people there, then they didn't get the right people there. Then they got the people who paid their way to get to the top. And the people who pay their way to get to the top, they will keep doing what they do because that's what they know that gets them success. So the idea here is let us get a whole new reorientation. Let us start looking at leadership differently. It's a team effort. Leadership is a team sport. Okay. The fact that a person is a captain of a team doesn't necessarily mean the person alone scores the goals. If the person gets a chance, give the ball to another person. It's a team effort. When you lead people like that, people will support you. Let's go back to the slides. I think I just had one more slide, which would be just an opportunity for people to ask questions. Oh, let's go back to the slides. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions? Any questions? So this is really, I just wanted to take a moment to say leadership requires a lot of tact. It requires a lot of understanding and balancing of the skills, a lot of looking at so many different variables, with the leader and followership being the two core pillars. It's very important that we understand leadership that way. And then for those of us who find ourselves in followership positions, just because you are not leading a country doesn't mean you don't play an effective role. Okay? Just because you are a civil servant, it's what you do as a civil servant that gets people to believe in you and elevate you. If you look at this part of the world, people become mayors of their city, and then they become governors of states before they become president. That's the general pattern. So the idea is you should have shown integrity. You should have shown everything we're talking about leadership. You should have shown everything we talk about followership in those micro spaces before you get brought up to lead the larger space. So that's the thinking. Now I'm going to stop talking and ask you guys to ask any questions or share any comments. It looks like we have just about 30 minutes left.
All right. Good. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. I think a couple of comments more. William says, a good listener, a strategic thinker, solver of a possible situation of the team. And Charlie Nete says, to achieve leadership success, there should be a balance on respect, understanding. Yes, I think respect, understanding. I think you wanted to add a few more, but is it respect and understanding? Okay, so those are the two comments. Now, let me bring Sarah in and see if she has some comments before I come in with my own. All right, so Sarah. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you did mention being a true leader. And what I want to find out from you is, can you walk us through how you have been able to exhibit those acronyms, the trust, the respect, understanding, and what is the E?
Execution.
Execution. Yes. Give us an example of how you, as a leader, has been able to exhibit these.
Navigate this through.
Yes.
Wow, this is a very deep question. That's an expert asking the question. I will tell you this. There was a point in my career that I had the opportunity to lead a group of people. Okay. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I learned, this has been my philosophy of leadership for a long time. But even in addition to that, the company kind of required discipline and respectful, humble leadership. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I did was I rotated. Let's start with trust. I created a trust environment where we had weekly meetings. And for me, with my meetings, we alternated between group meetings and individual meetings. So for the group, let's say week 1, we have a group meeting. We plan what we have to do as a strategic plan for the group. And then for the individual meetings, the following week, Monday from maybe 4 to 5, 5 to 6, we had each individual come to my office, and those meetings were not owned by me. Those meetings were their time. So when they came to my office, what I would ask them is, how am I meeting your expectations as your leader? What do I need to do to make you more successful? How are you tracking towards your goals? And then I also give them feedback. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. What can we do to make you successful? I manage their performance on a weekly basis. I didn't wait for their performance review to weaponize performance reviews to punish them. So that built some kind of a trust environment where people trusted each other. There were times where, let me give an example. There were 2 ladies on the team. These were very, very technically competent ladies. Okay. But some way, somehow, I felt like they were competing for who was going to be the next leader. And there was a time when one came to me and said, I don't like what the other is doing, XYZ. And the other came to me and said, I don't really like what this person is doing. So what I did was I said, why don't the two of you just go to lunch, spend some time together, iron your differences, because the two of you are the ones who are going to lead the team going forward. Once they got to understand that the two of them were the future leaders of the group, they became best friends. So it's all about creating an environment where people believe that you believe both of them, that you trust both of them, that you respect both of them. And when people buy into you, there were times when I would fall sick, okay? But I felt like I was in safe hands. There were so many moments. There was one particular point that one of the two ladies, there was an opportunity. I mean, our core company, we had a conglomerate of companies. Our core company was looking for a leader. And I told her, I said, this person, hey, I think you're ready to be a leader. So I'm going to go to the head of that group and tell them that you are ready to be a manager. She said, Jeffrey, I'm not leaving. I love this group so much. This group works so well for me. I'm comfortable being where I am. That is where you have built trust. That is where people will walk away from becoming the leader somewhere because they enjoy the environment that they live with. I'm not patting myself on the shoulder, but it was a requirement of the company. We had to create a feedback-rich environment. We had something called carefrontation, where people would confront you because they care about you.
Yeah.
You know, Jeffrey, I don't like the type of cologne you use today. It doesn't smell good. Change it next time. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? If they don't tell you, who has to tell you? The people on your team don't like the shirt you're wearing. You don't live far. Can you just go and change? This shirt doesn't look nice on you. It's okay. XYZ, I'll go do it. When you show vulnerability, you build that kind of environment. The question I give you back, Sarah, the question I give you back, Lawyer Sam, do you think our people in our environment are capable of that kind of leadership?
Well, that's a question for all of us on the team. We have, I mean, there are quite a bit of bright spots around. There are quite a bit of bright spots, especially in the corporate, private, and multinational corporate environment. We find some good leaders who are able to um, create the trust and get the respect and openness and so on. But generally, especially in the public sector, in government sectors, this is not the case. You're supposed to just obey. I mean, the leader he has to know everything. He is the one who has the authority. He directs and others follow. You keep quiet. So that kind of environment especially in the public sector and also in the private sector at the family level, individual owner business level, sometimes that's where people feel they have to exercise authority. So that's my observation there. Yes.
Okay, so let me come in here. And I think that, yes, it may not be existing in certain sectors. However, as you were speaking, you did talk about communication, right? And therefore, if we could use that as a tool, the way you communicate your feedback so that the person knows that you are respecting him or her will definitely start, maybe in a micro way, to bring about the change. Because yes, this is not the culture in that particular sector. So as Jeffrey said, as a follower, I'm also a leader. How can I start changing this in my own way? So I will use communication as a tool to make sure that I am respectful, the person understands me, and therefore that start building that trust so we can execute better. That is my take.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good. All right. So let me. There's Charlie is asking the question: how do you work with a leader who makes you feel your opinions are not significant, only his matters? How do you work with such a leader?
Charlie, I feel your pain. I came from Ghana. I know exactly how it is. And particularly if there are no jobs, if you feel like you are tied to your boss, if you feel like you're tied to your company, it's a very difficult path to navigate, particularly if you don't have that culture. But what I would say, Charlie, is sometimes you just have to be bold. And I think one thing I will recommend is that you have frank conversations with people on a one-on-one basis. Don't challenge them in public. Sit them and say, boss this, boss that, I really love you. I want to work for you. I want to be your employee. I like ABCD about you. However, the way you don't listen to our feedback hurts us. I think every look, they're human beings, they have feelings, they understand. If they know that you've bought into them, if they know that you respect them, if they know that you trust them, if they know that you do whatever it takes to make them successful, okay, you'll be surprised that even though they may keep that approach with other people, they will treat you differently because you had the guts to sit with them and respectfully say, I want you to succeed. This is why I'm giving you this feedback. And I fear I'm going to lose my job, but I care about you so much that I want you to succeed. And this is what people are saying about you. I don't want to see that happen. Okay. But you don't have to allow yourself to be used as the what do you call what is the term that they use? The mole to fish out information for that leader. No, you just tell the leader, this is the feeling we are getting on the team. And I think that I want to see you succeed. I want to be on your team. I want to go wherever you want to go with you. But please change this and you be the best leader ever. People, even if they don't take it, they will learn from it. Charlie, I hope I answered your question.
I hope so. All right. So, guys, if you have any other questions, let them come in. But Jeffrey, just one more from me. Can you share with us, I mean, with all your experience, any situation either you or you've observed in a leadership situation, the most complicated situation of balancing that you've witnessed and how this was resolved, so that as we talk about balancing, some of our people, maybe they are in some situations that they are not sure whether which way to go. If you can look through your repertoire of history and experience and share with us one situation where it was really difficult and the most complicated, and how either yourself or the leader or the team or whoever was involved was resolved.
In fact, what readily comes to mind is a situation where I was involved. And it wasn't a workplace situation, it was a home situation. Okay. I had a perspective of the way things should be done. Another family member had a different perspective. And the decision we were going to make was going to be borne by a third party. So look at the equation, like mother, father, kid. I'm just painting a picture like that, okay? The mom wants the child to do ABC. The dad wants the child to do EFG. Okay, now the mom explains everything about why ABC is the best option. The father explains everything about why EFG is the best option. So it got to a point where mom is telling all her friends are coming in trying to convince dad is telling all his friends are trying to convince mom. It's going back and forth. So eventually, the both of them decided and said, wait, at the end of it all, you are the person who is in the middle of the fire. Okay, you are the person, the son, the daughter, you are the person who's in the middle of the fire. So even though you may not be too mature at this point, it's your future. So what is it that you align with best? And both mom and dad will agree to accept. And that child made that decision. So there are times where it just comes down to picking the best option. But for me, he or she who is going to bear the brunt of the decision should always be given a chance to have a say in it. If I'm the one who's going to go to jail, if something happens, then let me be part of that equation. If let's say if I'm the chief accountant and I have to sign the checks, and you're telling me you want to steal money, you want me to be a part of it. If I don't agree to it, take me out of it. That's how. But I think there has to be agreement. The mere fact, I know, I remember I had a friend who visited from Ghana, and that friend told me that there was a point. He's an executive. There was a point where the higher ups wanted him to transfer money from the company accounts to a personal account, and he said, "I don't do that. I cannot do that." And they said, "Well, we're going to use that to help the company in a different sphere." But he was like, "Okay, this is not why you are taking out the money. But if I have that in writing, then I would sign that for that money to be released. But if you're giving me a different reason, I'm not going to sign it." Okay. And they said, "Well, then you're going to have to face a demotion because it's something that the chief accountant has to sign." And then he said, "I'll take the demotion." And he took the demotion and he didn't sign it. He was like, "It's for my own integrity. It's for my own future." So my thing is, when we start building that quality of being resolute in making decisions that affect us, I mean, you come to this part of the world, okay? You come to this part of the world, people's kids commit crimes, and the parents call the police and tell them. The parents will tell you, "I don't want to be involved in this. As a good citizen, I have to call the police and let them know. I know it's my son, I know it's my daughter. I know you face jail time. But the truth is, it's my civic responsibility. I have to do it. So I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, husband. I have to call the police." That is the level of personalizing integrity. So that is the kind of thing that I'm referring to.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I'm just looking through the chat. There's no question. Charlie said, "Thank you so much, sir, for the answer you've given to him." I'm not seeing any question, any comment. And so I believe that the message in the lesson is very well learned. All right. So on that score, I'm just going to, Kofi, to share the Live to Lead promo quickly, and then we'll come back and Jeffrey will give us his closing thoughts, and then we'll call it a day. Usually when we don't have many more questions, we don't keep the participants. Kofi, if you're ready.
Nobody ever thought their way to success. Nobody ever hoped their way to success. Nobody ever wrote goals on a planner to success. They acted. Action is what attracts. It's the action. It's the movement. Every person has a change the world speech inside of them. It's inside of you. Every one of you have a message. Every one of you have a dream. And my hope is that today you'll begin to express that dream better than you ever have, because people need to hear your story. People need to see your vision. And when you learn to communicate, you pass it on to others, and you help so many people make a difference in the world. So let your dream come out and learn how to communicate it with excellence. Thank you very much. My name is John. I'm your friend. Thank you.
Great. All right, guys, Live to Lead is on 6th October. Please just go to the links and register if you you're interested, and you should be, because it's about your growth. So we encourage everyone who has the opportunity to go and register. Now we would ask Jeffrey to give his closing remark, but there's a final question that came in from Fafa, who says, please, as a new head of a company, how do you change a toxic environment? So as you give us your closing remarks, you address that before you take us to the end. Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, lawyer. I think I'll tackle Fafa's question first. Fafa, you remember I said something that you have to re-recruit. When we talk about re-recruiting, the people are already there, but they've checked out. They've created a toxic environment. So you want to start with focus groups. You want to say, hey, new king, new law, new queen, new law. The idea is we have reached a new dawn in our growth as a company. I'm the new leader. The old leader believed in doing things a certain way. The old crew, the old team, is the same plane we're flying, but there was an old crew that believed in navigating a certain way. But we are going to be doing things differently, and you have to justify the why. You have to say, this is why I believe we should go this route. So you have to re-recruit them. You have to reorientate them. You'll be surprised that there were certain people in those ranks who in the past probably did not see the environment to be right. They also saw the environment to be toxic, but they couldn't say anything about it. So when you tell them that things are going to be different and you give them the option, those who want to be part of the new order, should let you know. They can go through trainings. You can create a new guidebook, a new playbook, how things are going to be reset, how things are going to be redone. And let's say if in the past people were coming to work at any time, well, if you're going to require that everybody comes to work at 8 o'clock, you have to put in the systems, the tools, the parameters to make that new system work. You come in at 8, you sign your name. If you come to work and you don't sign your name before 8 o'clock, we don't pay you. If you don't sign your name before 8 o'clock, go home. If you go home 3 times in a week, you are fired. So set expectations earlier. And as you're doing that, you want to also start boosting your recruitment efforts. You don't want to limit it to the organization. But when you change the culture, when things start working right, some people who were on the fence will attach to you. Some people will ship themselves out and say, look, if we don't give bribes in this company, I don't want to work in this company. I'm used to bribes. It's okay, let them go. But if you are building a new culture, what you want to do is let people know this is what you stand for, explain to them. But before you make that decision, reach out to them and say, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts about that? How do you think this is going to work at the operational level? Because in everything that we do as leaders, we have to think about how it's going to affect the marketplace, how it's going to affect the people involved, and how it's going to affect the operations involved. You have to think about it along those dimensions. So that is how I would approach it. Some people are going to be angry. Some people are going to leave. It's okay. People can be replaced. The company is what you want to keep. You want to steer the company in a different direction. The storm is coming this way. We said we're going to go through this path, but because of the storm, we have to change course. If you only know how to go through one particular way, then I'm sorry, we have to find a way to respectfully separate, and then we get another group of people come on board who will work for us. That's my answer to Fafa's question. And I hope Fafa agrees with that. If you agree with that, please share a comment with us. Now, for wrapping up, I think I've said it all. What I think is, I know it's a lot that I've shared today. I know that some of us, you take people like myself, I've lived in this country 20-something years. It didn't happen day one. When I came to America earlier, there were certain things that I was like, I don't understand what these people are doing. It doesn't make sense to me. So it's a process of acculturation, but it has to start from somewhere. So I know most people in our part of the world tend to see leadership only through the eyes of the leader. I'm trying to bring in a new dynamic. I'm trying to say, let us see leadership through followership as well. Let us start blaming ourselves too when some things are not working in the country. Let us not always blame only the leaders, but let us give the leaders feedback. Let us support them. Let us believe in them, okay? And let us follow that principle of making sure we build mutual trust within the team, we build mutual respect, we build mutual understanding, and we jointly, in a coordinated way, execute in a mutual way to achieve our intended and shared purpose. And with that, I think that things are going to start changing. Everything starts changing with the environment. Once we build the environment right, other people who come on board will know that this is how we do things around here. I always tell, let me talk about lawyers. Lawyer Sam here is a lawyer, okay? When he was in school, he didn't wear those wigs that they wore, but when he got to law school, he wore it. You know why? Because that's the culture there. So we have to start shifting the culture. We have to start creating sanity and the right environment within our own small spaces. When we build the kind of environment that we believe in our own small spaces, and when they start yielding the results that we want, we will believe in them. And people who believe in us and believe in the system will join us, and it will grow. Things grow organically. Give it some time, it's going to grow. Remember what I said about this presentation at the beginning? When I was reached out to, this is a whole presentation with a different topic, strategic collaborative leadership. Same slides. I didn't change anything. But because I believe in the principle, because I believe that leadership is a two-part equation, I said, let me just change the topic. I can speak to the same thing. So that is who I am. That is what I believe in. Okay, that is a culture I believe in. There are some leaders in Ghana that I know that are amazing leaders. I mean, you come to this part of the world and you go to hospitals and it's Ghanaian doctors, Nigerian doctors. So the talent is there. Ghanaians are smart people. We just need the resources. We need the culture. We need the tools, and it starts with us. We have to start brightening the corners where we are. And once we change the culture, things are going to change. And very soon, the Abofo will start also chasing visitors to come to our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Jeffrey. We are so grateful for the thoughts that you've given. And Fafa say thank you very much for your answer. So on that note, we want to draw the curtains and thank Jeffrey so much. We thank all of you who have joined on the platform, and we wish you good night. Tomorrow is Sunday. Let's find opportunity to thank God and serve him for life he's given us. God bless all of you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you all very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Nobody ever thought their way to success. Nobody ever hoped their way to success. Nobody ever wrote goals on a planner to success. They acted. Action is what attracts. It's the action. It's the movement. Every person has a change the world speech inside of them. It's inside of you. Every one of you have a message. Every one of you have a dream. And my hope is that today you'll begin to express that dream better than you ever have, because people need to hear your story. People need to see your vision. And when you learn to communicate, you pass it on to others, and you help so many people make a difference in the world. So let your dream come out and learn how to communicate it with excellence. Thank you very much. My name is John. I'm your friend. Thank you.